It's episode 8 of the Crossover Podcast, your 956th stop for all superhero movie news. I'm host Doug.
And I'm Matt. This week on the podcast, we're going to be discussing everything that's happened since September.
You can reach us at thecrossoverpodcast@gmail.com or head on over to our Facebook page or YouTube page and like and subscribe. Just search for The Crossover Podcast. And as Matt pointed out, yes, it's been quite some time since we did an episode. I have a life, people, and I have to pay bills. If you listen to the Hodgepodge Podcast, you know the excuse that I gave there. I was working a lot. But then also what was happening is that Matt was guesting on the Hodgepodge Podcast, and then some of the stuff that we would have discussed here, we already discussed on the Hodgepodge Podcast. So if you're not listening to the Hodgepodge Podcast, go check that out. HodgepodgePodcast.com. And so yeah, we discussed like the stuff that was going on, and
yeah, we talked a little bit about trailers and whatnot. We'll go a little bit more in depth here.
Sure,
possibly if we have time. We'll see.
Sure. As we're recording this, it's not superhero movie news, but Star Wars premiered last night. So
what?
Yes, there's a new Star Wars movie.
I mean, I know about Star Trek.
Not Star Wars.
Yeah.
And
Sabotage.
Everybody who has seen it is tweeting about, what they thought, and I would say 99% of the reviews are very, very positive.
Right. There's Devin Faraci, and then there's everybody else.
Yes, Devin Faraci from Badass Digest. He gave it a lukewarm review, we'll say.
That's
he
true.
said it was...
It was not completely bad.
He said it wasn't. He said he liked it. He said it was good. It was fun, but he said in true J.J. Abrams style. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. J.J. Abrams style. The story is shitty and kind of dumb, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
we're going to see it Thursday.
That's one dude.
Yeah,
out of like a sea of people who seem to really love what they saw last night.
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Patton Oswalt had the best review for me where he just wrote, JJ did it. And I actually kind of teared up when I read that because Patton Oswalt is a huge nerd hero. And if he liked it, it's probably going to be good. But as Matt pointed out to me before we started, he does have that Disney affiliation with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And he was also in Ratatouille.
Yeah.
So he might be tainted.
Maybe. If there's one person I got to believe is not a shill for the company, it's going to be Patton Oswalt. So... I have faith. I think,
yes.
I like what I hear. I mean, I don't want to go in with, my expectations are probably way too high as it is. But I'm trying to keep them in check. I'm trying to go in with the attitude that, if it's not the greatest thing ever made, it's going to be okay. It's going to be better than the prequels.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's a.
It's pretty safe to say at this point.
To me, the biggest hurdle is it better than Return of the Jedi? Because
yeah.
I don't think it'll touch Empire Strikes Back. And I don't think it'll touch the original Star Wars.
I think it has a chance at the original. I don't think it's going to touch Empire. But my big thing is I'm so excited about these new movies because they are new stories.
Yes.
We don't know what's going to happen here.
Right.
The problem, I preach about this all the time with the prequels and every other prequel ever made, is that there's no tension because you know what's going to happen.
Right.
Everybody knew Darth Vader was going to turn to the... Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. Darth Vader turns to the dark side, right? So, or Anakin Skywalker does. So it's like, you're just watching those movies going, yeah, I know what's going to happen. Let's just go ahead and get there.
Right, yeah.
This, we have no idea.
Right.
So I love it. I can't wait.
I do because I have all the spoilers.
Right.
It's the Ewoks. They're all behind everything.
Damn it.
Sorry.
That's
who Andy Serkis is playing. Andy Serkis is playing an Ewok.
I know. Or as long as he's not playing Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah, Conan O'Brien said he was.
I didn't watch that video. I saw that he was on there talking about the evil Jar Jar voice.
There was one guy, Feinberg, I want to say he writes for Hollywood Reporter, I think. He says that the film, because of the field expanded and all that stuff, he says the film will probably get nominated for Best Picture. Because he said J.J. Abrams may get a nod, and the director, that's only 5. That's only 5 for director. So, he was very impressed with it. But he also is basing that on at least the Best Picture thing. He's also basing it on how, because the field has expanded, the Academy will recognize big blockbusters as long as they're really, really well made.
Well,
so
Return of the King.
Return of the King, yes. All the Lord of the Rings movies.
But The Dark Knight didn't make it.
The Dark Knight did not make it, but you also have to remember that The Dark Knight is pretty much the reason why they expanded the field. Because for some reason they didn't nominate The Dark Knight, probably because it's a comic book movie, so they said that's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But they didn't nominate it, and then they started nominating like Avatar and stuff like that, and a lot of animated movies, a lot of Pixar movies are getting in there.
Yeah.
Toy Story 3, Up was nominated. Inception got nominated. Something that you probably think wouldn't get nominated in a 5-horse race. So,
but this year, I don't think. I mean, you're the one that sees more movies than I do, but I don't feel like this is a particularly strong year. I mean, you've got Spotlight is maybe clearly the front runner.
Spotlight's the front runner right now. The Big Short is supposedly excellent.
Okay, so can you name 8 other movies that should be?
Well, it doesn't always necessarily have to go to 10. Like it's between 5 and 10.
But if they expand it, or if they go to 10,
generally they've never gone above 9. So if you're going to go 9, keeping in mind I haven't seen everything yet, I would say you're probably looking at Spotlight.
You still haven't seen Krampus.
Yeah, I think we're okay then. You got Spotlight, The Big Short, Carol, with Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara. That's getting a lot of buzz. Inside Out, I think will definitely get nominated in the Best Picture category. They're talking about Mad Max. Maybe. Yeah,
it's already it's if not nominated,
it's picked up. It's picked up some critics nominations, stuff like that. Yeah,
the Critics' Choice,
some critics awards. Yeah,
or no, Critics' Choice. I'm thinking for Jessica Jones. She got nominated for Critics' Choice Award.
Right.
Anyway,
and then still to come, The Revenant. A lot of people thought Joy with Jennifer Lawrence and David Russell.
That didn't do so well.
It's not getting good reviews.
Yeah.
That hasn't come out yet. That comes out on Christmas. Hateful Eight will probably get a nod. Because Quentin Tarantino lately has been really getting a lot of attention, awards attention. So what is that? That's 1, 2, what did I say, 6. So, and then there's other ones that could sneak in there. Room could get in there maybe. Maybe Danish Girl. I saw that the other night. There's still some other sleepers like Steve Jobs. It didn't do well. Yeah. It did well with the critics, but it didn't do well with the box office. So it could be a sleeper. There's another movie called Brooklyn that the critics really seem to like, with Saoirse Ronan. She's in that. I haven't seen it yet though. So there's other indie movies, but
there's Ant-Man.
That's not happening. And but there's definitely a possibility that Star Wars could sneak in there, as long as it's really good. I mean, it's if it's Phantom Menace quality, it's not doing anything. I can't imagine.
I can't imagine it's that bad.
Because my thing is that, and I said this to my buddy last night, he called me because he was complaining about the Star Trek trailer. I said, no matter what happens, the Force Awakens is already better than the prequels, and the reason being, this one has characters that we actually care about. Whereas in the prequels, I didn't care about any of those characters because they were all dead-eyed, lifeless, drones.
Yeah.
So it's already ahead of the pack there.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay.
That's Star Wars.
Right.
And they make comic books about Star Wars, so I guess you can qualify that we can talk about it.
I'm going to remember that next time you bitch at me about trying to bring up Star Wars on the show.
So, I guess the biggest thing to talk about is, now that we're coming towards the end of the year, a lot of trailers have been leaked.
It has been a trailer bonanza.
Yes. We talked about the Civil War one on Hodgepodge. We can talk about that.
Yes, we did.
Batman, Superman.
Yep.
We just saw recently X-Men Apocalypse.
Yes, Apocalypse. Deadpool's got a trailer coming out on Christmas Day.
Right. Because
the 12 days of Deadpool.
I guess.
The 12 days of Deadpool.
What else was there a trailer for? There was Independence Day, but that's not relevant to us. Star Trek's not relevant to us. Oh, and also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Also not relevant to anyone.
Yeah, well, hey, they're superheroes.
Yeah, that's true. And they did have comics, so let's quickly go over that one. Lots more Turtles, apparently. April O'Neil was barely in it.
The trailer.
Yeah. Casey Jones.
Yeah, Stephen Amell, who plays Green Arrow on TV, is going to be Casey Jones.
Yeah.
Megan Fox is back as April O'Neil. Coming off her starring role in the April O'Neil story, which was actually called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it was really April O'Neil's story.
My favorite thing about the trailer has been the interviews that have come with the cast afterwards, where they're all like, "Yeah, that first movie sucked. We promise this one is going to be better."
Well, it's a different director too.
It is a different director, and I love watching them dance around.
Yeah.
When they talk about the first director, they're like, yeah, it was challenging. You know, it's like they want to call him an asshole so badly, but nobody crosses that line. But you can tell they're right there. They're like, oh, I hated that bastard. You know, every day on set was pure hell.
You've got Bebop and Rocksteady are in this one, and I thought they looked good. I mean, for the CGI, they look good. There's also an alien invasion that takes place in the beginning of the trailer that is really never mentioned again in the trailer.
Look, it was a sky hurricane, and then it just got forgotten.
And then Iron Man fell out of the sky, and the Hulk
caught him, and this is what was going on in the background.
Yeah, right. It went during Avengers. They're trying to grab on those coattails. Yeah. So there is a possibility we may see Krang, or at least his species of aliens. I forget what they're called. And, of course, we can't forget the most important addition to the cast, Tyler Perry as Baxter Stockman.
Who could forget? Well,
which is actually
me.
Which is actually keeping it... That's actually closer to the comic book. Because in the cartoon, I think he was like a nebbish white guy who turns into a fly, right? I think, Baxter Stockman. And... but in the comic book, he was a black man. And he was a scientist, and he made the Mousers, and so Mousers might be in this too. So there might be a whole lot of things, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff that people will remember and recall that might be in this movie.
Well, look, we just know Michael Bay is going to take care of us. He's going to take care of the fans. Don't worry about it.
Before we get into the other trailers, big news that Paramount is going to combine the worlds of G.I. Joe, Mask, Micronauts, Rom the Space Knight, and Visionaries. And I'm like, Visionaries? I'm like, how does that work?
I don't know.
Did you know Visionaries?
No.
Visionaries is like set like in the future after like technology has like failed. I don't know if there was like a war or something like that, but technology doesn't work anymore, so they've turned back to magic and stuff like that. And it's like
that's an option.
Right, but it's like, how does that fit in with G.I. Joe?
I don't know.
That doesn't fit in at all.
I thought Transformers was also in this.
No, Transformers it's going to be its own thing, which is stupid because they used to make Transformers versus G.I. Joe comic books.
Yeah, so what, your most recognizable franchise, you're just going to be like, no.
They're doing their own Transformers thing.
That's right, they're making their own Transformers shared universe.
Yes. Because it works so well with Spider-Man at Sony.
Yeah. Maybe they'll do like a Sinister Six of Transformers.
The Decepticons.
Drew Goddard's like just wringing his hands. He's like ready to go.
Can't wait.
Oh my God, I'm going to forget what I'm doing over here. I'm going to jump on the Transformers bandwagon. Poor Drew.
Yeah, poor Drew.
Well, so let's just quickly go over the trailers. So Batman vs. Superman.
Right.
Starring Wonder Woman and Doomsday and Lex. Some good things about the trailer. A lot of good things about the trailer. The whole, like, Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent's interaction was really cool.
That was great.
That was really great. The Batman-Superman fight looks good.
Right.
It looks really good. And I, at least what we know of the story just from the trailers, I think is a really good way to pit these two against each other.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can tell from the trailers that Bruce Wayne was in Metropolis, and I think we may have mentioned this on the Hodgepodge or even on the crossover here, that for these movies, they've changed the geography of the DC universe, basically, and what used to be like, Gotham was basically like New York or Chicago, and then Metropolis was the other one, now they're more like Oakland and San Francisco.
Yeah. And
Metropolis is San Francisco, and Gotham is Oakland. And so they're just across the river from each other. So Bruce Wayne was in... you didn't have to do that, I don't think, since Superman flies, but whatever. But and Bruce Wayne is rich enough to have interests in various cities. But anyway, so according to the trailers, Bruce Wayne was in Metropolis during the Zod Superman fight, and one of his buildings got destroyed. So he has a personal grudge now against Superman, and also just being paranoid Batman. He's like, he's going to destroy the Earth, So a lot of people think that the scenes that take place in the desert are nightmare scenes that Batman has.
Yeah, because there's like demons flying around. That might be Darkseid.
However,
yeah,
there's an interview that's floating around with one of the production designers on the movie, and he says, because the biggest complaint about this trailer is that they gave too much away. And this guy Gary, he assures everyone, he's like, oh no, there's more that we didn't show you. There's much more there. Doomsday is not the end all be all. So maybe that is in the who knows? So
so what does that mean? That if that's not, it seems like that's a dream sequence.
It seems like a dream sequence, but maybe it's a like a flash forward or something like that, or like maybe. Or like telepath or something like that. I mean, who knows? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no indication that Martian Manhunter's in this, but he could be. You never know. So I doubt it.
I would love it if he was, but yeah, I can't see him keeping him a secret, but no one else. You know, it's like the production designer also let it slip that Flash was going to make a cameo in the movie. Yeah, we know Aquaman's going to have a cameo.
Right.
Wonder Woman was in the trailer, so
yeah, and her introduction was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
But no, I mean, Martian Manhunter, you could get away with it just because, you know, they do brief these people and they do tell them, you know, don't tell anybody this, you know. But also with Martian Manhunter, because he's a shapeshifter, you could cast him as just some normal dude and then, you know, reveal that he's Martian Manhunter, you know. So yeah, it's not. I mean, they're doing it on Supergirl.
Yeah, they did it on Supergirl,
and they also did it on Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
So, I doubt he's going to be in it, but I'm just saying, I'm just, you know, projecting.
Yeah.
The other thing that people had an issue with was Lex Luthor. He's growing on me because I think that what he shows in this latest trailer, they tried to show that in this trailer that it's a little more lighthearted than people are assuming it's going to be.
Yeah.
That there is going to be some comedy in it. And even Chris Nolan's movies had some like witty banter in it, you know, like with Alfred and, you know, whenever Christian Bale was Bruce Wayne, and he was always a jackass. So they wanted to show that, yes, there is going to be some comedy in this. It's not going to be as lighthearted as some of the Marvel films, but you will chuckle in this. Lex Luthor was very animated in this, and he's very, hey, ho, hey. I think that's just his public face that he shows to people. He's supposed to be like a Mark Zuckerberg type guy. And luckily enough, they cast Mark Zuckerberg,
yes, they did.
Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, and some people, it's interesting to see, like, you know, because we pour over all this stuff and every detail that comes out about these movies. And it was interesting to me. I was talking to people. I forget where I was. I think it was something this weekend. I was at. I can't remember if I was at work or if it was in my personal life. But but some people were like, I can't believe Lex Luthor has hair, and I'm like, you didn't see the Entertainment Weekly picture from like several months back where like he's straight up bald.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, so just because we're big nerds and like we pour over all this stuff, not everybody does. Mm-hmm. So like they are not all quote in the know, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm withholding judgment on Luthor. I don't. Yeah. You know, I really just want a Superman story without him being the focus at some point.
Oh, Luthor?
Yeah, Luthor or Zod. I mean, it's one of the two. It's what we almost always get.
Well, I mean, yeah, that is true. And I felt that way during Man of Steel. I felt that in Man of Steel, I felt that Zod had a much better motivation than in Superman 2. Where he's just like, oh, a planet, let's go destroy it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, hello. Whereas like in Man of Steel, Superman brought them there basically inadvertently.
Yeah.
And Lex Luthor, you know, he's like Superman's Joker, so this is technically the second Superman movie. You kind of had to bring him into it.
Yeah. It's I just, you know, when I saw Darkseid, I mean, I know Luthor's going to be involved in that. It was interesting that they chose Darkseid as I guess maybe not. It's not the final enemy.
Doomsday.
Yeah. Or sorry, Doomsday. Because we talked about this on the Hodgepodge. He is known for one thing,
right,
and one thing only, pretty much.
It's like Bane.
Yeah, it's the death of Superman,
right?
So it's surprising to see him this early, but you know,
but I think that's part of the reason why they put him in it is because they know they're probably never going to do Death of Superman story, so they're like, let's put Doomsday in this and get it over with.
Yeah,
because they're not. I mean, they can go anywhere with this universe. they don't have to go to Death of Superman, because Death of Superman, let's remember, was only done for one simple reason: sales. Their sales
to give him a mullet.
Right? Yeah, the sales were exactly the sales.
Sales are down. He needs a mullet. How do we go about this?
Interesting comic book news, by the way.
Yep.
Speaking of low sales and stuff like that, I was just reading a report about November sales for comic books. Number one was issue number 1 of The Dark Knight 3, Master Race, which actually wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it. I read it. It's not bad. It's an interesting start to it. So I am going to continue buying it. Frank Miller's not doing the art. He's just writing it with Brian Azzarello. So it's kind of like the Star Wars Force Awakens. It's like, yeah, but J.J. Abrams. I'm like, Larry Kasdan is helping him, so it's, he's helping.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy Kubert did the art. So I'm interested to see where it goes. The ending was interesting, but that sold like 400,000 copies or something like that. And then they go through like the top 10 books, and nothing in the top 10 sold below 100,000, which is the good sign. Granted, a lot of them were these Marvel number 1 starting after Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But in the top 5, and I think I'm stating this correctly. In the top 5, I don't want to say this wrong, but the one Marvel team book that was in the top 5, what do you think it was?
A-Force.
Wrong.
Damn it.
Extraordinary X-Men.
Oh, I should have guessed.
And that's why Marvel will never completely, as much as they shunted Fantastic Four to the side. I mean, the Thing is in the freaking Guardians of the Galaxy now.
Yeah.
They'll never get rid of the X-Men because it's still a top seller for them. And I think shortly after that was like Uncanny X-Men. So, and Avengers is in there too. Like Uncanny, they've changed all the freaking adjectives. So it's like Uncanny Avengers or something like that.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, of the X-Men.
Right. Apocalypse.
X-Men Apocalypse trailer dropped. It's going to, quote unquote, premiere with Star Wars, but as is the case these days, no trailer really premieres with a movie anymore. It's always online first. X-Men Apocalypse, it was a teaser. It was really an introduction to Apocalypse.
Yeah. That's told by Moira Taggart.
Yeah, Moira McTaggart. Yeah, Rose Byrne is back as Moira McTaggart. They still got her working for the CIA. That's not what she does. And in the comics. And you had it right in one movie, not in these two. She probably in the interim she probably goes and gets her master's degree in genetics.
Right.
So,
she'll get there eventually. CIA to medical school.
Right. It always happens that way.
Yeah. Typical Hollywood story.
But it's a primer to Apocalypse. You don't get you only get one really good look at him.
Yeah.
And I think that's because they're probably digitally touching him up still in the movie. Oscar Isaac's voice, at first I wasn't so sure about it. Then the more I watched the trailer, I kind of was like, I kind of came around to it. I was expecting more like the cartoon voice, where it's more like a deeper, like almost like modulated voice. But they go straight with Oscar Isaac's voice.
Yeah.
What else? No Wolverine, obviously.
They talk about him collecting his 4 horsemen.
Right.
Which it looks like is going to be Storm, Magneto, Psylocke,
and Angel. Archangel.
Yeah.
It looks like Martin Gore of Depeche Mode in this movie.
Yeah. Of all the trailers that have come out, or just thinking about the movies of next year, this is the one movie that I keep forgetting is coming out.
Right. And it's going to be huge, I think. After Days of Future Past, I think it'll be huge.
Yeah. I don't know. The trailer didn't... I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad trailer. But it didn't really grab me. Like, right. The Batman Superman trailer was really good.
Yeah. Batman Superman got me really excited.
Civil War, I cannot wait for Civil War. That trailer was awesome. And then comes X-Men Apocalypse. I'm like, just watching going, I liked it better than I liked the Star Trek trailer.
Right.
But I don't know what it is about this story. Like, there's always seems like there's something missing in the Fox marketing with the X-Men movies. Like, their trailers never really do it for me. Their posters are usually terrible. But I will say, the poster for this was awesome that they released after. It was,
oh, right.
It was
with him with the skull. Like the
holding the human skull.
Now, here's my question, because let me get your take on it, because was his eye blank, or was it closed?
I think it's blank. Like, I think it's frosted over.
That's cool if they do that.
I think that's what they're going for.
I hope so. Okay.
Because I think you can also see it when he's like that one shot in the trailer where he's got his arms up and he's like, proclaiming whatever. I think you can see there that his eyes are kind of misty.
Right. And I think that's where they took that other picture from. Mm-hmm. But he still didn't look like he did in that picture. So that could have been a Photoshop job, or it could be that because that's happening, then he's starting to look more like the Apocalypse we know at the end, maybe. Because it's like I said, my theory is that the reason why he walks around looking the way he does now is because that's his human face, quote unquote, and then he'll be normal Apocalypse once he's like, I'm Apocalypse, fuck you. So it's like, a lot of destruction in this trailer. New York's going to get it in the butt, and
in the tutor.
And they showed all the new X-Men, basically. Sophie Turner
Jean
as
Grey
Jean Grey.
She had a line. Cyclops said something.
I wasn't sold on her voice. Because I don't know if it's because I'm so used to hearing her talk like this in Game of Thrones. Yeah. Or it's because...
It's really hard not to see her as Sansa Stark.
Yeah, it really is. I hope she does a good job. Because she's a good actress. She is. And
I'm sure she'll be fine.
Yeah.
It was like... It was so...
brief.
It was brief. But when they're doing the quick shots of all the new X-Men, it's like, oh, cool, Jubilee, cool.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know why she's in this movie anyway.
I don't know why she's in
because, even though the timeline got all screwed up at the end of Days of Future Past.
People's ages.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ages should have been still the same. Yeah. She was still younger than all the other X-Men. Yeah. Now, from what I understand, Bryan Singer has revealed that she doesn't have a big role in this at all. Like, maybe she is younger than them, and maybe she might be a gateway, perhaps, maybe to New Mutants, maybe? Because they're getting that engine running they're really getting that running. New Mutants, you might not see another X-Men movie before New Mutants comes out. So maybe she's going to be the backdoor pilot, maybe, to New Mutants. Who knows? Because when they're in the field, you only saw Jean, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, Quicksilver. So Jubilee wasn't really a part of that. I think she just goes to the mall and hangs out with them and then says, okay, I'll wait at the mansion, bye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Jubilee, I was never the greatest fan of hers in the comic book, but I did like what they did with her when the X-Men, and here comes my X-Men nerdiness, when the X-Men split, basically, and then it was her and Wolverine, and then Psylocke. And, like, she was kind of like his Robin. And they even made her look like Robin, basically. So, like, that worked for me. But then once they got the team back together, it's like, okay, bye, Jubilee. It's like, we already had Dazzler. We don't need you. Goodbye. Dazzler is a cooler character anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think but it is interesting. It is good. I shouldn't say interesting. It's good that they have, an Asian American, character in there. I mean, I think that's important.
Well, we got Psylocke.
That's true.
Yeah. So, we really saw nothing beyond just the Flash.
No, and that's the thing. We saw more of Psylocke in the Entertainment Weekly thing than we did. I mean, they just show her face once.
They show her face.
That's Olivia Munn.
I know.
I mean, you're not going to show that off? Come on.
Storm really didn't. You know what? The things I did not like about the trailer, and I mentioned this to Dirty A, is that I got a serious Mortal Kombat vibe when they started doing, like, the shots of Storm with all the destruction going on behind her, and then... same with somebody else. They did like an intro shot, and there's more destruction going on behind him.
Magneto, probably.
Maybe. Yes, it was Magneto. And then Archangel comes like, shoo! And
they got to fix that CGI because those blades look crappy. Those blades look
horrible.
But I think, but again, you got to remember, like when they did the first X-Men trailer, I'll never forget this. When they did Cyclops, he didn't even have beams. It was just a red light came on when he shot, like, and no beams came out of his eyes. So it's like, and people were like, this is gonna suck. And then the movie came out, they're like, that was awesome. So I think they'll clean that up for sure.
They have to. As long as it's not X-Men Origins Wolverine levels of horrible CGI.
Oh, God.
When he's looking at his claws in the mirror.
It's like Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. It's like crayons. Yeah. Somebody drew that with crayons.
Yeah, so
I don't know. I'm not really judging it too much just on that one trailer.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be good, but didn't really wow me all that much.
It'll be interesting to see how Hugh Jackman shows up in this. Because,
you know he's going to be in it.
He's going to be in it. It's like the worst kept secret in Hollywood.
It is the worst kept. Like, I don't even know why Singer's even trying anymore.
Yeah, he'll be.
Just say it.
He'll be in it.
He's going to be in it
at some point, and it would be awesome if they did the plan that we thought they were going to do, but they won't.
No, he won't be dead.
But it would be awesome if he was like,
whatever.
If he was like the fifth horseman. He's like, oh, here's my other guy, Wolverine. Oh shit!
Yeah. And that's when Xavier's hair falls out.
Exactly, and that is the coolest shot in the whole trailer. At the very end of the trailer, they show James McAvoy in full Patrick Stewart mode.
Yeah,
and he actually looks like him. It's like you're like, ooh, Xavier.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Because I'm a big X-Men nerd, I think I'm more excited about it than you and Dirty A. But I'm looking forward to X-Men Apocalypse. And the other thing for me is that we're getting Star Wars. Then February is Deadpool. Then March is Batman, Superman, and then the beginning of May is Civil War.
Yes.
And then this comes out on Memorial Day, so it's like this would be a nice aperitif after all these comic book movies. And excellent.
Yes.
Nice
dessert port.
Exactly. So speaking of Civil War, the Civil War trailer did drop, and that was, I guess, of the ones we're talking about, that's the first one that dropped.
It was,
and it looks great. It looks, I liked, the thing I liked most about it is, because I've been a huge critic of what they're doing with this, because it's like, just call it Avengers. But the trailer showed that it really is going to be very Cap centric, and it's a lot about Bucky and Cap, and so that was important to me, that it is actually truly a Captain America sequel. I did see the international trailer, like, ooh, there's new footage. I'm like, ooh, like a frame.
Yeah,
it's like,
I watched it and I was
garbage.
like, it's cut down. From
and they cut it down. It's like, it's even worse.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? No, just show that to the international audiences. Why do you have to cut it down?
Black Panther makes an appearance in this, and he looks pretty cool. And of course, he's never without his mask. No. And so it's not really Boseman. Right. I love how I was reading some of the articles, because Entertainment Weekly also did a cover story on it, as is their wont to do these stories like a year in advance of the damn movie coming out. And because the X-Men one was like a year in advance, it's like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. And which actually worked against the X-Men.
Yes, it did.
Because of the way
That was when Ivan Ooze came into the news.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the X-Men trailer, don't worry. Apocalypse is indeed blue.
Yes.
So, at least.
Have you seen the recut trailer with Ivan Ooze?
No. I won't watch it. No. God no. So, but yeah, so Entertainment Weekly did a cover story, and a lot of stuff came out about the movie from that.
Yes. Which
was interesting.
Yep.
And, Robert Downey Jr. always has verbal diarrhea.
Yes,
they need to like clamp that guy down.
Yeah.
But it was funny how they kept on talking about like, oh, and then there's the Black Panther. It's just a stunt double, because it's like so I think I'm almost getting the feeling that Black Panther like is going to be like Iron Man, where it's like once the mask goes on, it's like, yeah, I'm going on a coffee break. Yeah. See you later. And Chris Evans is like, screw you. I'm in this movie all the time. So.
No, it was a cool reveal, I thought, for Panther. I mean, the first time you saw him in the trailer is when they look like they're on some airfield in Germany somewhere, and Falcon's like, what do we do? And Cap says, we fight. And then you see them all like go at each other, and that's when you see the first sort of hero shot of Panther. I think he looks really good. The cooler scene with him, though, is him chasing Winter Soldier and Cap chasing Panther.
Right.
Because you can see just how fast Black Panther is. Like he's outrunning Cap.
Yeah. His powers are a lot like Cap's. They're not flashy powers.
No, they're not.
And like you'd almost say Black Panther doesn't have any powers, but he does. Yeah. It's like he's kind of like, if I'm not mistaken, he's kind of like a little bit like Wolverine in that doesn't he have like enhanced senses and stuff like that? Yeah, so he has like that end of Wolverine stuff. I don't think he has a healing factor, does he?
I don't think he does, but it's most of it, like a lot of his power comes from the vibranium in the suit.
Okay.
So I really want to see what they do with the vibranium. They released a picture as part of the Entertainment Weekly thing, a nice close up of him with the claws extended on his suit, and they look really good. I'm really excited about seeing Panther. I'm actually kind of glad that we didn't see Spider-Man in this trailer.
Oh, I don't think we would, and I don't think he's gonna have a very large role anyway.
No, they said in the article that Spider-Man and Ant-Man in the movie are the comic relief. They were written to be the comic relief in the movie. I don't think either one of them are going to be centerpieces of the thing, because it looks like the trailer looks like a very emotional movie. Because it's very high stakes for Cap, because the plot seems to be that some horrible event happens, and
there's an explosion at some point in the
it looks
trailer.
like a UN.
I think it involves Crossbones.
Yes, so Crossbones is involved, but they make it sound like the world is out to get Bucky because of all the things that he's been made to do.
Yeah,
and they show in the trailer that he is no longer brainwashed. He's got his memories back. Sort of. He remembers Steve's mom.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
I
remember your mom.
I love that meme. It's like, Bucky, do you remember me? I remember your mom.
Oh God. And then they show little Steve crying.
So they set that up as the crux of Civil War. It's like, or at least part of the conflict between Iron Man and Steve.
He's kind of replacing Spider-Man.
He is
a little bit.
Yeah.
Him and Black Panther probably kind of share
maybe
that role.
It looks like my guess anyway is that Panther. I talked to you about this. My theory is that Winter Soldier killed T'Chaka.
Yeah.
And that Panther is there to kill Winter Soldier. Like that's the only reason he's in this conflict.
Right.
And they kind of hint towards that when they were discussing Panther's role in Civil War. They were like, he's got his own agenda.
Yeah.
He's there helping out Tony, but he's not there to be on Tony's side. He may not have a dog in his fight with the Sokovia Accords, which is what is replacing the Registration Act from the comic Civil War. It's now the Sokovia Accords.
And that's actually a smart move because in the comic book, I've seen... Well, first of all, let's get this out of the way too. Marvel announced that they're going to do Civil War 2, the comic book. Yeah, awesome. Who needs to see that? Nobody. And and when I saw that announced, people were online and they're like, yeah, Civil War, yeah, where or like they were talking about Captain America, and they were like, yeah, Captain America only cares when superheroes got to register, not the lowly mutants, because that's been a thing in X-Men comics for years, for decades, about the Mutant Registration Act. So when they did it in Civil War, I was like, that's stupid. That's cheap. I mean, I understand where they were going with it, but it's like, you already been doing that with the mutants. So it's like, so the fact that now it's something more of like a UN resolution kind of thing, that is a little bit more...
It makes sense also given the Marvel universe and the way that Ultron ended.
Yeah.
Because in the Civil War comics, it was a bunch of
Stanford,
mutants.
right?
Yeah, it was Stanford, Connecticut got destroyed because these, as part of the reality show, these young heroes went out and tried to take on these supervillains by themselves. Right. And one of them was, what's his name?
I forget.
Whatever. He blows himself up. And he destroyed the town of Stanford, including all these children. And, it's like, it's just this horrible event. And that was...
Wait. You're saying a bunch of kids got killed and then legislation actually followed? Wow.
Oh.
That doesn't take place in America.
That doesn't sound like America. So yeah, that was the sort of catalyst in the comics. So it makes sense in this universe that Ultron ripping a city out of the ground and trying to blow it up, and then actually the city being destroyed. That makes sense, as that would be the catalyst for something major happening.
Yeah.
Because, the world is still sort of new. Like, heroes are still sort of new to the world.
Right, yeah.
And something like this happens. I mean, you've already had an alien invasion. Right. Which, that was sort of contained in New York City.
You had the alien invasion. You had the Ultron thing. You had the Hulk thing.
The Hulk destroyed Harlem.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about Avengers 2.
Oh,
in Wakanda. In Wakanda.
Yeah.
You had that, and then you have now whatever happens in the beginning of Captain America 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's
so
all over the place. And they've talked about it. Also, this has been a running theme through Iron Man, the Iron Man movies, about how the government needs to control the suit, and Tony Stark's like, "Well, I'm Iron Man."
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he's going to be on that side of it he's going to be fighting for the Accords.
Which mirrors the comics. It was like was very odd to see Tony side with the U.S. government in the comics.
Right.
But clearly, it's on his conscience. The Ultron thing is, it's affecting him, and
as it should be.
As it should, yes.
Because
it really is all his fault.
It's 100% his fault.
So he should feel bad.
Something Vision should hopefully tell him.
Yes,
it is all your fault.
I can't wait to see Vision. You know, it's all these characters I can't wait to see in the movie. Scarlet Witch flies in the trailer. You can see her taking off. I think Hawkeye was also in it for a second.
Whatever.
But I am looking forward to seeing Spider-Man eventually. I don't care if I see him in a trailer. I bet they'll show him on the very last trailer, like just a flash of him.
Yeah.
Look, it's Spidey. So everybody knows that he's in the movie.
As long as the damn costume looks like Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's all I care about.
Yeah, they mentioned something about everybody keeps sort of getting close to talking about the costume, but not really. Nobody will spill it, even Downey.
And have they given any hints? Because I didn't read the whole Entertainment Weekly thing. I didn't read the whole thing. Did they give any hints that leaked picture is possibly real at all?
The only thing they gave they didn't. The only thing they gave hints about was that there would be multiple costumes in the movie. So
we can sell more toys.
Yeah, most people will eventually or just jump to the conclusion that we're going to see Iron Spider.
God, I hope not. That costume's disgusting. I hate that costume.
I think we're going to see it. I don't think it won't be his by the end of the movie. I think when if he switches sides, that's when we'll see the classic red and blue.
Somebody posted on Collider when they were talking about Iron Spider and all that stuff, and some guy posted, "What does Spider-Man need metal for? Stupid ass nerds." And then I think one of the guys from I think it was Trumbo or whatever from Collider, he's like, "This is the best comment ever." He's like, "What the hell does Spider-Man need metal for? Stupid ass nerds."
Yeah. No, it ends. The trailer ends with a 5-second beat down, really.
Of Iron Man.
Iron Man getting his ass kicked by Winter Soldier and Cap, and a really cool sort of 2-on-1 thing where they're flipping the shield back and forth, and it was a really cool scene. But that movie's looks good. I actually don't need to see that much more of it.
So those are all the trailers.
Yes.
Doctor Strange is filming now.
Yes.
Some pictures have leaked out, but nothing
really. Some behind the scenes stuff. I mean, some people were like, "Ooh, I can see the eye of Agamotto on the set."
Right.
Maybe. You
right.
know, it's like, who knows?
The only pictures I saw were of Cumberbatch and Chiwetel Ejiofor as Baron Mordo.
Mordo, yeah.
And then another piece of news broke today that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is trying to get Kurt Russell.
Yes.
And he will play. They don't say who the character actually is, but it's assumed he'll be Star-Lord's father.
Yeah, so they're still keeping that as a mystery, like who Star-Lord's father is.
It's Uncle Ben.
It's Uncle Ben. So Kurt Russell's Uncle Ben.
We gotta tie Spider-Man in here real tight.
And Marissa Tomei, still the hot Aunt May.
Yeah, right.
That I hope that comes true. I love Kurt Russell. The guy can do no wrong.
Nope.
In the movies, anyway. In the movies. I know he was in Death, whatever. But he was the only good part of that.
He's been in some stinkers.
Nay. But the other casting news had to do with Thor 3. With Kate.
Yes.
Blanchett.
Yeah, they're talking about Kate Blanchett is in talks to be in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. And that's good news. The bad news is that they're like, oh, and they're bringing more writers onto Thor Ragnarok. I'm like, oh, that always works out great when there's 15 writers on a screenplay.
Yeah.
Because what I heard is that Chris Yost, and I forget the other person, wrote it, and they were like, oh, it's really good, and it's dark, and then now they're like, oh, let's bring in more writers to ruin it.
Yeah. It was a woman that they're bringing on. I can't remember her name right now.
It's okay.
But they're bringing on another writer.
Interesting that Waititi isn't one of them.
Right.
Considering he's the director.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to think about Ragnarok. I mean, it's... I just want a good Thor movie. I just want a good Thor movie.
You'll never get it.
I want one. And, I feel bad. Chris Hemsworth is... he's a really great Thor. He's just had shitty Thor movies. Dark World is just one of those. It's one of the few Marvel movies that I just can't rewatch very often. It's
you mean after the 5 times you saw it in the theater?
Yeah, I just twice.
Even that was too much.
Yeah. It's just bad, and there's very little redeeming qualities to it. So I want Ragnarok to be really, really good, but I don't know. The Kate Blanchett would be a great addition to the cast because she's always really good, and she's really good in genre stuff.
Right.
Lord of the Rings and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. I know Hemsworth is walking around going, I want the movie to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm like, Ragnarok should never be like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, because the Hulk is going to be in it.
Yeah.
And they're describing it as like it's going to be like almost like a buddy comedy or something. And I'm just like, I don't know if anybody understands what the tone
Ragnarok,
of this thing should be.
The end of all existence.
Maybe it's just like maybe they thought it was Fraggle Rock.
Now
now they think it's going to be Fraggle Rock.
Yeah. Maybe they thought it was School of Rock. Jack Black's going to come in.
Down to Fraggle Rock. Down to Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Doozers.
That'll start filming this year, I guess.
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, Strange
when
is
does that
filming
come
now.
out? That comes out...
It's 2017, right?
Ragnarok?
I think 2017.
Well, when does it come? It comes out in the...
Late.
Is it in the summer or in the fall?
Oh, I don't have my calendar in front of me.
It's in the fall because it's Guardians and then Spider-Man and then Ragnarok.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it'll probably start filming. It'll probably start filming in the spring. I think it is. Yeah, I think they said April or so they were going to start filming it.
Hemsworth has to put on some weight because he lost a lot of weight for In the Heart of the Sea.
Yeah. Way to go on that.
Yeah.
But see, what you got to remember though,
totally worth it.
No, but he lost a lot of weight, but he's probably gained it back by now because that movie was supposed to come out in March of this year.
Oh,
that movie's long.
I just saw that picture he posted.
It's because they send that. It's because that's all promo shit for the movie. Yeah. That movie was supposed to come out in March. That was long done. And I think they
had to work on those whale effects.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the whale looked fine. It was
the story that did not.
The story, and it wasn't that great. Anyway, I guess before we wrap up, let's talk about the greatest comic book property of the year, and that is
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones on Netflix.
Yes.
We've both finished it.
Finally. God, Doug.
Whatever. I have a life.
I finished it within 2 hours of release.
But I will say this, because you and Dirty A said the same thing about Daredevil. That was the same thing with Daredevil, that there was a lull in there. Whereas I took longer to watch it, and I didn't feel the lull at all. And I think the lull comes from being like, oh my God, this is taking forever to watch this show. Yeah. And because there's 13 episodes, and they're all pretty intense.
Yeah.
I think if you space it out, it kind of smooths it out a little bit. Because I didn't feel any lull at all. Like everything, even that one episode that's in there that kind of doesn't really do Kilgrave. It's kind of like, it's like the side thing with Simpson. And he's destroyed my good name.
Yeah.
Like that didn't feel like it was like a one-off or like, an outlier. It felt like it was all really part of it.
I thought the lull came in that the hermetically sealed cage.
Oh, really? That one?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I thought that was good.
I felt like it just went on a little too long. But I mean, these are small quibbles for me. I think it is the best thing. One of the best things that Marvel's done with their cinematic universe.
For sure.
With, I would say without a doubt, the very best villain that they've had. They need to look at Kilgrave and every single thing that they do from here on out. They're like, what made him work? We need to do this with all of our
multiple things. I mean, they
had time to breathe.
He had time to breathe. They gave him a backstory. But it's also David Tennant. David Tennant has a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
And that's why people like Tom Hiddleston so much as Loki. James Spader was all... I mean... I was just about to say he's all CGI,
yeah.
But you can't use that excuse because look at Andy Serkis in the Planet of the Apes movies. I mean, he is like, he's performing. But it's a little hard for James Spader to perform when he's a freaking robot. Yeah. So, and to be honest, as I think that Red Letter Media's Ultron California proved, he's pretty much just playing James Spader. Yeah. Just like Robert California was in The Office. Yeah. So Red Skull didn't have a lot of development. He was just basically like a Hitler guy. Yeah. And,
it's better not to talk about Malekith.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, Eccleston, he's good in a lot of other stuff, but he just didn't connect in that. I think, I don't know if you told me this or I read it somewhere that there was supposed to be a lot more to him. There was. But they cut it out.
They cut out they cut out a lot of the opening, which was supposed to explain a lot more of his background and give him a little bit more depth. And they axed it. And so he comes off very flat and two-dimensional and evil for evil's sake.
Like the majority of the Marvel villains. Yeah. The Ronan the Accuser. I mean, even if you just read his Wikipedia article, you're like, wow, that's way more interesting than what they did with him in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. And even Thanos, I would say, because he's really just kind of like on the fringe right now. And like, it's not like Loki, who actually had like meat and potatoes, and he got to be developed over multiple films. Thanos is just kind of like, hey,
well, I'm hoping that Volume 2, I hope he's the main villain in the next Guardians movie. Yeah, that would be great because we need to see him. We need to see the introduction to Lady Death. I think before Avengers: Infinity War. I don't know that that's a good way to introduce her.
And it all depends on what they're going to do. It all hinges on Civil War. Whatever happens at the end of Civil War will dictate what happens in Infinity War Part 1. Because I think I said to you that what could happen... There's one of two ways they can go with it. Either Civil War, they realize, hey, this guy's making us fight, let's team up again. Yeah. Or it's going to be the whole team gets destroyed, and then Avengers Part 1 is them putting the band back together. Yeah. And which could happen. So
that would make sense. I mean, it's like that would be the Infinity War Part 1 is the introduction of Thanos as the main threat,
which is kind of what people think they're going to do for Justice League. Justice League will be them assembling the Justice League, basically.
That would make the most sense. Part like if Darkseid is the villain, then Justice League Part 1 will be them assembling, and Part 2 is them actually fighting them. I something similar could happen with Infinity War. I don't know, but I really wish we could get his infatuation with death on screen. Yeah. Yeah. And plant the seeds of the character so he's a little more three-dimensional than the normal villain. But I think Kilgrave and Fisk have been two great villains. So the Marvel TV side of things,
it's because they're human too. I mean, they're
they are.
He had Kilgrave was just great. I mean, it's like I said this when we talked about it on the Hodgepodge podcast that you are watching this show and there are things that Kilgrave will do and you root for him. You're like, oh, he's so cool. And then immediately after he does that, you're like, oh God, he's the worst person who ever lived. So it's like, I mean, it's immediately after that,
they're so smart about it because they do make you feel bad for him. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I guess I can kind of see how, no, he's the worst person ever.
He's the worst person ever. So the show's great. Kristen Ritter's fantastic. I love her as Jessica Jones.
And like I said earlier, she's already been nominated for her performance in this.
Yeah. She was really, really great. I can't wait to see more of her. Mike Coulter is fantastic as Luke Cage. He's in about half the episodes. Yeah.
He was in it way more than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, well, they have to set up that relationship, really.
They do. Still, I was surprised. It was a lot. Yeah. And he's great. I can't wait for Luke Cage. Yeah.
Luke Cage comes out next year. They're filming it right now. My prediction is that Luke Cage will come out in the summer, late summer
With Daredevil being spring?
With Daredevil being in the spring. Daredevil will come out probably the same time around April-ish. Because you got to think about it like this. You always have to think about like the press cycle. So like Star Wars is going to dominate things for a while. Then Deadpool will come out, but Deadpool's not as big a player as these other things. So it's like, but Deadpool will be a big deal for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then March basically will belong to the build up to Batman and Superman. And then there will be like a lull in there in April before you get to Civil War.
Yeah.
And that's probably when they'll say Daredevil. Put Daredevil in there. And then Civil War will do well throughout May. And then you
X-Men.
get into June. And then, at the end of May is X-Men. So then that'll leak into June. And then there's all summer movie blockbusters. I'm thinking maybe August-ish. Because the reason why they don't want to put it in the fall like they did Jessica Jones is because that'll sort of cannibalize the audience that they want to go see Doctor Strange in November. Yeah. So, I mean, it could be as late as September. Maybe they'll launch it like a normal TV show and say, hey, September, here comes Luke Cage.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it might be August, maybe.
Sooner the better. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it. I keep forgetting about Daredevil season 2.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the other thing they got to be careful about because Jessica Jones is like, Daredevil got great reviews. But, I mean, I want to say the reviews for Jessica Jones were better. And I could be wrong.
Stronger.
I think I have to double check Metacritic. But
yeah, I don't know about scores, but at least just by reading what I have about the reviews of Jessica Jones, they've all been glowing.
Right.
And I think the reason it might stand out more is because it hits on some really powerful issues.
Yeah.
Women's issues.
Yeah.
And
like abuse and domestic abuse and PTSD and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, victim shaming. Yeah. I mean, it's just there's a lot of heavy stuff here, and it's handled really well.
Yeah. Drug abuse. With what's his face? The neighbor.
Yep.
It's mental illness with the neighbor upstairs. Oh wait.
Clearly.
Oh wait.
Yeah. No, and it's
and even alcoholism because Patsy Walker.
That's true.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, the whole Hollywood mom thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you know who that is, right?
Oh, what?
It's Rebecca De Mornay. Is her mother?
No.
Yes. I was watching and I'm like, is that her? And I
That's not Rebecca De Mornay.
That's Rebecca De Mornay.
Are you shitting me?
I'm dead serious. That's her.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's Rebecca De Mornay.
Hellcat's mom is Rebecca De Mornay. All right.
It'll be interesting if she shows up in the Defenders as Hellcat.
Yeah.
Because I know they're like, oh, it's going to be her, him, and him, and him. But they might put Patsy Walker in. You don't know.
Maybe. Punisher might be in there. Elektra. Yeah. Did you see Frank Miller's comments?
That's not her.
That's not the real Elektra. Nobody's seen her yet, asshole. You haven't seen 1 second of footage. That's not the real Elektra.
I also didn't see the movie.
Yeah. He's such a dick.
He's such an ass. I hate Frank Miller.
Write about your master race, Frank.
In his defense, the master race will be the villains.
But he likes the title.
Yes, he does.
Right. Is that going to wrap it up for us?
Yes. So Jessica Jones, if you haven't watched on Netflix, watch it.
Yes.
I have a friend who is like, he's hemming and hawing about it. I'm like, you need to watch Jessica Jones. Yeah. It's really, really, really good.
Yeah. Even if you don't like, I would say you don't like superhero stuff, it's not as action oriented as Daredevil.
No, it's not. It's more like it's more like a thriller, like a noir thriller. It's very psychological.
Yes. Very dark, psychological.
Yeah, really dark.
Plays with a lot of heavy themes.
And Kilgrave's awesome.
God, he's so good. And
and Lester Freeman's in it.
Yeah, he is.
Clark Peters.
Yeah. I love anything with some Wire alumni. Which there were a couple in oh man, what was it? Creed.
Yeah.
Avon Barksdale was in it. And then the cop, the big dumpy cop who was in, I want to say like 3 or 4 seasons at least. He was like the Creed's manager at the beginning of the movie. That you just got a promotion and now you want to quit. I mean, that guy who was one of the
right. Yeah. He was the bald cop.
Yep. But I love that Lester Freeman was in this movie,
Bunk and
he was also in John Wick.
Yes, he was, and so was Lance Reddick. Lance Reddick was
Yes,
in
he
John Wick
was.
as well. He was
Yes.
the concierge at the hotel.
Yeah, I love seeing Wire alumni get out there.
Yeah, that'll do it for this episode of The Crossover. Hope you're all caught up.
Yeah.
Next episode, who knows?
Who knows when?
Who knows what we'll be talking about?
Maybe we'll do
We
a
don't know.
summer movie wrap up. You don't know.
Shut up.
Hopefully, we'll do it before then.
No, yeah, we'll think of something.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening.
All right.
See you next time.
See ya.